You ever wake up thinking it's just another Saturday, only to realize years later that was the last normal day you'd ever get? That's what that morning felt like, the low hum of a wrench in my hand. Fighting old bolts and years of rust while Grandpa teased. That's 50 years of dust you're battling, not the devil, Matt. The sun was just starting to cut through the smell of grass and motor oil, and for a second, it was like time stopped. Just me, my dad, Ethan working next to me, Grandpa Frank watching from the porch with that half smile that said, "You're doing good, kid." And nothing in the world felt broken yet. We were fixing up this old windmill Grandpa dragged out from behind the shed. He told me it was his father's, from back when a handshake was law and neighbors trusted each other. You could see it meant something to him. Not just a project, but a link to everything that used to make sense before all the paperwork and rules started choking the place. Dad was sweating, sleeves rolled, jaw set like he was building a house out of pride alone, and Grandpa just kept that peaceful look, unless someone mentioned the HOA. Then his eyes would go, razor sharp, like he was tracking something dangerous in the tall grass. My grandpa, he'd seen things, man. Vietnam, Alaska, places that teach you to stand steady or get swept away. To most folks around Maple Hollow Road, he was just the quiet old guy with a cane and a notebook. To me, he was gravity, kept everything anchored. But, like I learned, even gravity isn't always enough. It started about a year before that morning, when Mom, Linda, got one of those HOA notices in the mail. Her garden flags weren't uniform. She laughed, crumpled it up, until 3 guys in black shirts knocked on our door. No badges, just cold eyes, fake authority, and threats. They got up in Mom's face and hissed, "We'll make sure this neighborhood stays clean." 3 days later, she collapsed in the kitchen. The doctor called it a stress-induced stroke, but all I saw was an empty chair and a family that couldn't quite patch the hole she left behind. After that, Grandpa went fortress mode. Higher fences, double locks, cameras everywhere. He'd say, "Paperwork won't keep you safe, kid." Dad wanted to move on, let it go, but Grandpa knew deep down this wasn't finished. Fixing the windmill wasn't about nostalgia. It was proof some things could still stand tall, even if the world tried to bend them. That morning, I asked, "Why now, Grandpa? Why build this thing?" He just stared past the horizon and said, "Because when the wind comes back, you better have something that can stand in it." Dad laughed, didn't get it, but I did. Grandpa was watching the road, waiting. That morning was too quiet. But a black SUV rolled by slow, pausing at our corner. Grandpa didn't even flinch, just took a sip of coffee and muttered, "Not yet." I thought he meant the windmill, but he meant the trouble. That was the last peaceful morning I can remember. Things got weird after that, quiet in all the wrong ways. I'd ride my bike past houses where people used to wave, but now just peeked through curtains. Dogs stopped barking. Grandpa said, "When folks stop waving, it ain't the weather's fault." That's when the SUVs started, shiny, blank, parked at the edge of the block for hours. New flyers popped up, community enforcement, safety compliance, some knockoff Eagle logo. Grandpa studied them like battle plans. They changed the font, he'd say. "Official documents don't change fonts." I thought he was crazy, but I started listening closer. Every night, Grandpa filled that old black notebook. Car times, faces, license plates. He drew a grid of the neighborhood with red X's on certain homes. Empty houses, he said. They didn't leave. They got moved out. The edge in his voice was sharper than I'd ever heard. Same. One from the day after Mom died. He told Dad, "Men like that don't disappear. They regroup, rename, come back cleaner." Dad told him he was seeing ghosts, but Grandpa said, "No, I'm seeing patterns." A few days later, just messing around with my drone, I caught 2 guys in black jackets by a truck marked Civic Shield Corporation. They saw my drone. One even smiled up at it. I showed Grandpa, and he went dead quiet. "That's not a man doing a job," he said. "That's a man testing a boundary." He made a phone call. "Tom, they're here too. Same look, same tactics. Don't tell me to. Waiting's what got Linda killed." I watched him rub his wedding ring and say, "They think we're soft. They forgot some fences have roots." Sleep didn't come easy after that. Grandpa started keeping watch by the window, shotgun across his knees, coffee in the other hand. He wasn't paranoid. He was patient, and in our house, patience meant preparing. Then Mrs. Porter, our neighbor, showed up shaking, clutching a folder, inspection forms, photos, red stamps that screamed Civic Shield. They took pictures, Frank. Smiled like they owned my house. Grandpa flipped through her folder, said, "You might have just done something brave." She said, "Frank, I'm terrified." He answered, "That's what brave people sound like, Martha." That night, I saw headlights outside. The SUV parked, lights off, just watching. Grandpa checked the closet for the shotgun and told me, "If someone knocks and I'm not here, you don't answer. Not for anyone. They're testing the fence. Boy, sooner or later, they'll find out what's on the other side." The wind rattled the new mailbox, and I realized warnings don't always scream. They sometimes whisper right before the storm hits. The quiet went from uncomfortable to unbearable. Even the mailman looked jumpy. Dad kept busy, trying to fix things he couldn't fix. The windmill was half built, and he'd just stare at it like finishing it might make things better. Grandpa kept his watch, notebook in hand, murmuring about patterns and east side routes. One night, he handed me a flashlight. "Let's check the fence line." We found a footprint, fresh and heavy. "Predators always scout first," he said. He cleaned the shotgun with the same care he gave everything that mattered. Later, he whispered, "They're mapping the dark spots." Sleep was a memory after that. Then came the day the world split open. Morning routine, Dad bolting the windmill, me handing him tools, Grandpa on the porch with coffee. Then the crash, a white Jeep, no plates, ripped through the fence. The windmill toppled, boards shattered, everything chaos. 3 men in black uniforms, fake badges, mirrored glasses, barking about HOA code violations. Dad tried to stand up to them, but they grabbed him, twisted his arm, called it noncompliance. One reached for me, cold hands, colder voice. "The law's on our side, kid." Then, click. Every head turned. Grandpa, shotgun in hand, standing steady. "Showtime," he said. "You boys picked the wrong yard." The men froze. "Let him go," Grandpa ordered. And they did. He listed their crimes: trespassing, assault, impersonating an officer. 3 felonies before breakfast. When one reached for something, Grandpa fired a warning shot into the sky. Thunder. The men dove to the ground. "Next one goes lower," he warned. He made them empty their pockets, wallets, fake badges, flyers for Neighborhood Discipline Task Force. I was shaking, but started filming. "Keep filming, Matt," Grandpa said. "Truth is the best safety we've got." So I did. We stood there, afraid, yes, but standing. For years, we'd been pushed. That morning, Grandpa pushed back. The police arrived, real officers, real badges. Among them, Lieutenant Bridges, an old friend of Grandpa's. Bridges took one look at the scene, at the fake badges, and shook his head. "Frank, you handled it clean. These guys have been pulling this scam in 2 other counties. Posing as HOA, extorting folks, bullying families. For the first time in months." Grandpa exhaled. "Justice has a funny way of circling back," Bridges said. After that, the house was swarmed, feds, evidence teams, agents asking about Civic Shield, about the video. Grandpa answered everything with quiet patience. "Panic's loud," he told one agent. "Wisdom's quieter." I chose the second. News crews camped at the gate. Neighbors started coming by again, some with cookies, some with apologies. Even the mailman waved again. Dad fixed the fence. Oak this time, not cedar. Neighbors helped. We hung a plaque that said, "Not this time." The HOA, the real one, held a meeting, every seat filled. They voted out the old board, started working with the police. No more threats, just neighbors looking out for each other. Grandpa was honorary chair, even if he never showed up. Too many words, not enough deeds, he'd joke. The story wasn't over. "The video I filmed?" Dad said. "Maybe it's time to tell the rest." So I did. A podcast called Civic Shield, telling the truth, not just ours, but everyone's who ever felt powerless against a badge that wasn't real. The first episode blew up. Emails from veterans, lawyers, folks who needed to know. Standing your ground doesn't always mean pulling a trigger. Sometimes it's refusing to kneel. One day, a letter from the state attorney general showed up. "Because of your courage, new laws are in motion, tougher penalties for impersonating officers, oversight for private security." Grandpa just said, "About time." We had dinner outside that night. Neighbors laughing, music playing. Peace for the first time in years. Grandpa leaned back in his chair and told me, "You keep that windmill spinning. That sound means the world's still turning right." Years passed. Dad died at home, never wanting to leave Maple Hollow. Grandpa's chair sat empty, but never lonely. The Civic Shield Foundation grew. We help people now, teach them their rights, show them how to spot fake authority. Every anniversary, the local paper runs a quiet story, the day the windmill turned. Not dramatic, just a reminder that courage, real courage, is steady. On the morning they dedicated the new park in Grandpa's name, Bridges said, Frank Baxter didn't fight for applause. He fought for peace. The windmill we built spun in the background, stubborn as ever. I found a note hidden in its base, Grandpa's writing, "Keep the wind steady." That's all he ever asked. So every morning, coffee in hand, I sit beside that chair, watch the light hit the fence we rebuilt, and listen to the windmill turn. Because that sound, it isn't just the wind. It's our promise. It's justice, earned and kept. So, tell me, what would you have done? Ever had to stand your ground when it mattered? Share your story below. I want to hear it. Because sometimes, the quietest porch holds the loudest truth.